Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 45, Episode 2. That is right. I'm your host, Chris, and with me again today are both of my tribe members that will not let me down in a puzzle, a coral puzzle, and that is Kahuna and Jake. Jake, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I really, really liked this episode, and I hope you guys did too. So
I enjoyed it.
Let's talk
I
about
enjoy it. Yeah, Kahuna, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing much better than Jake probably is with his fantasy draft for this current
Man,
season of
It
Survivor.
took a minute and 18 seconds to bring that up.
I'm not even gonna lie.
What a start.
I've just given up. I'm shooting for second place at this point. There's no way I'm coming to first. There's no way.
It's been a rough start. Listen,
It was
this
just
is
amazing. The two that he started out with is so it's like couldn't be written better.
Okay, Brandon, I took a risk with him. I'll admit he showed some warning signs, even preseason. But Hannah, I am not claiming any fault for that. I can't. Yeah. But Brandon, I'll take full blame. He showed some red flags that I should have taken more seriously.
You see, Kahuna wears glasses, and he wasn't going to trust other players with glasses this season. So I don't know, Jake, if that's going to be something you're going to look out for in the coming seasons, because two players with glasses out back to back.
I mean, apparently that's the rule this season, I guess.
And he's still got Brando in the wings.
Brando and your boy Drew, he's got glasses too. You're screwed.
Yeah, I know. Well, listen, Drew's. We'll talk about the points a little bit later on, and he is killing it for me on that side of things at the moment. But yeah, it's a rough start. The team didn't look too good. For those that are listening to audio, Jake had coming into this episode, Jake, Brandon, Jeremiah, Brando, and Emily in his team. We knew that Brandon and Emily were going to be in hot water coming into this episode, and we'll get into it because we start off. Actually, before we get into it, I haven't even. Where's my manners? I haven't said hello to the VIPs here in the live yet. Kiwi Skirt in the live saying, made it on time today. Wet and gloomy spring Saturday here. Perfect for staying indoors and listening to TNT with a pink waving hand. Welcome to the live, Kiwi. I know you didn't completely get on time for the amazing race last night, but we're happy to have you here. Andrea Lee coming in hot with a $5 New Zealand right off the bat saying, to Sir with love. Lulu and Andre, I've seen some of your messages that you've DM'd me. I will get back to you at some point. I promise. It's been a busy week, but over the weekend I will definitely get back to you. Thanks for the $5. We definitely will put it to good use here on the channel. Danica saying, of course she's driving. She's back driving someone, being a mom, the busy life over there. But I'm finishing up at the grocery, heading home, back at the computer soon. So hopefully us having some technical issues before going live today is giving you a little bit of time to get back home as well. Let's see, who else do we have here? The Fairy Tiger Wolf back in the live as well. Says, yes, I've actually made a live for the first time in weeks. We're happy to have you here, Fairy Tiger. Fairy Tiger also predicts that the Yellow Tribe will go on a run now, avoiding trouble. Pretty strong remaining 4 tribe members. So big calls here by Fairy Tiger, and we will discuss that a little bit later on as well. Jay is back as well. Jay, it's always good to see you. I don't know, the Nullified Take will see in the long run if it was the right decision or not. That's based on the question I've asked here coming into the live. We've got a vote going, which I will read. I'll go back to it by the end of the live, where I said, did Lulu make the right decision to vote out Brandon over Emily? So far, 71% of the audience believe that they did. 29% says no, they did not make the right decision. And I will come back to both of my esteemed co-hosts here to ask their opinion later on as well. Let's see who else. Deanna, hello everyone. Welcome back to the live, Deanna. We've got Willie in here saying, I think Lulu did make a good decision. If Brandon stay, he would have kept making the Yellow Tribe lose. And that's going to be an interesting one because we will discuss it throughout the podcast. But getting into the beginning of this episode, we've got Lulu back at camp. We've got Emily now knowing her position in the game. She severely overplayed. This was another really big episode for Emily, but she sits down with Sabia and the rest, and Sabia is not having any of it, Jake. What did you think of this moment here with Emily sort of groveling a little bit and Sabia being just really annoyed and not all that sympathetic coming from Tribal Council?
Sabia, I get it, man. I get it. I mean, Emily's tactics were pretty, aggressive, coming right at her. And, if I'm her, I'm like, we're like 2 days into this. I didn't do anything, and especially now we kind of see in this episode, like Sabia and Caleb are not that close. Like, it seems like Sabia went really to Brandon more at first, and then obviously we'll get to that later, that she is just done with him. But so it seems quite manufactured, this aggression of like, it's Caleb and Sabia. They're a tight duo. We need to split them up. And so yeah, I'd be annoyed as hell if I were her. And it's just unwarranted.
Kahuna, it was interesting because it kind of felt like it was this alliance that was forming between, and I do think that Sabia and Caleb are somewhat close, but I do think they wanted to have their lieutenants, and both of them were looking for that person that they could sort of have on the side, with Sabia reaching out to Brandon. Obviously, we're going to see Caleb reaching out to Emily throughout the episode as well. And it was kind of an alliance that came together out of necessity because they were branded as the strong duo. And also because of the fact that they need strength in this tribe right now. They can't really afford to lose either a Sabia or a Caleb.
I'm really hoping that the Lulu tribe can turn it around just for these two, because I'm really enjoying Caleb and Sabia. It's fun seeing the chaos around them and what they can do, but I also feel for them because they seem quite competent and good at the game and seem like they could go far. I really like Caleb. I like Sabia's openness and the way she kind of put things, like she said, it's the way you talk about things. You have to have tact when you're interacting with people. And then she pulled out the coldest, like, side-eye little, I don't know if it was meant to be an insult, but I took it as a really great insult when she said to Emily, she goes, look, I can't help the way I feel about things, just like you can't help the way you say things. It's like, and that's almost like what Survivor comes down to. Is like, it's not what they're saying necessarily, but sometimes how you say it, how you get someone on side to be able to give a difficult, I want this person out, or I think we should do this person. And when, especially in those early days, and she's right, like, it's the way you say things. And the fact that she called her out to it, and she's almost automatically, through no, inclination of her own, taking on a leadership role, says a lot about, who she is as a person. I think I'm really digging them too.
Jay here says, according to Brandon in the exit interviews, Caleb and Sabia weren't that close, but rather Sabia was closer to Sean. That is a relationship we haven't really seen much of on the show, but it does look like throughout the episode, Sabia is pulling Caleb into everything. So even when they're going out and looking for the idol, for instance, Caleb is in there with her and Sean. So trying to cement that threesome together, I think, and to bring Caleb in. But it's going to be interesting moving forward because Caleb is looking elsewhere, and I've got my thoughts on that. I've got my thoughts on him sort of wanting to work with Emily, and that's something we'll talk about very soon. Jay says, this is probably the longest running Survivor conundrum. Keep the challenge performer you don't trust, or the person you trust more who isn't as great as challengers, similar to Sean keeping Jeannie or Ricard in Survivor 41. So that is true. It has been a very long time. And I think that when you get into a small tribe like this, where there's only 6 people, you've got less lives to burn through. So if you're in a big tribe of 10 people and you had to make this decision, you probably will always lean towards trust first, because if you're in a majority alliance and you're in a power position, you've got maybe 3 or 4 lives you can burn through before your own life becomes sort of at risk in the game. But in this one, you can't, there's less room for error when it comes to it. So I can empathize with them choosing challenge strength over potentially the trust element in this episode. But let's move on to the Reba Red tribe here. Very fun segment here in the opening parts of the episode with Sifu practicing a bit of Tai Chi out there on the beach. Hitting a couple of trees. Poor Trace, I was feeling for them. I didn't know what they did to upset Sifu, that he needed to be punching them out there on the ocean, or out on the island. But a fun scene. I really love Sifu. Jake, personally, I'm a character person. I love the characters, but it does seem like his tribe sometimes gets a little bit annoyed with him out there.
Yeah, I mean, he's it kind of reminds me of Marianne a bit. It's like, it's a bit much at times, and especially when you're starving, and
so he's probably winning, right?
Could be a good sign. Who knows? I mean, we'll see if we can turn it around. But again, he could have 2 idols, Chris.
Yeah.
You do realize that, right? He could have 2 idols. So that's dangerous. They might have to get rid of him for that.
Yeah. Clearly, he's doing a lot of idol hunting out there while doing the Tai Chi. It's all a front, Kuna. While he's doing his Tai Chi, hitting trees, he's actually looking for idols as well at the same time, multitasking like all good men should.
And it's not working. They see what he's trying as well, like as far as it being a cover. Oh man, he is when you say character, like that word is carrying a lot of weight because he is a character. Like he goes to Austin, says, "Hey Austin, like I can punch things really hard and it doesn't even hurt." Like, like
And
how old
Austin's
are
like,
you,
well,
bro?
okay.
Yeah, like I get the vibe. Like so many times, my 5-year-old son will say, "Hey Dad, you want to see this?" And then they'll just like do something silly, and you have to go, "Yeah, that's awesome. Good job, buddy." And it's the words, but remember, it's how you say it, right? So they would have to go, "Yeah, Sifu, awesome, man. Punch trees." So,
Good job.
it's a lot.
How do you respond to that? How would you guys actually respond to that? Like,
If a grown adult man said to me, "Hey, man, look, I can punch trees," and it doesn't hurt.
Yes.
I think Austin did a good job. To be honest. Like, I would have been caught off guard a little bit myself as well. Just be like, oh yeah, that's amazing, man. I can't believe you can do that.
Well, he said
the level
like
of dedication and training that
anime.
must have gone into being able to do that. Amazing stuff, Sifu. I don't know how it's going to help us in the challenges, but yeah, A for okay from me. But
there could be that one challenge where you have to like grab the machete and chop through the wood. But what if for some reason
he uses his hand?
Jeff decides I'm not going to give the machete to the Red Tribe because Sifu can do it with his hand.
Yeah, that's what we need.
That's where it could come in handy. So they might have to keep him just for that.
I actually think he sat out on the challenge because they were forced to use the club. He probably asked first, "Hey, can I just break it with my hand? Can I punch things?" And just like, "No, you have to use this." And he goes, "Okay, I'm out."
I don't know what my purpose here is. I'll just sit
out. Jake, the live audience wants you to introduce the 4th co-host as well.
This is Kaiser. He's my sister's dog that I'm watching right now, and he is very needy and has to sit on my lap the entire time.
Jake's practicing his evil villain pose. He just needs to turn around in the chair and then be slowly getting the
Yep. But listen, let's move on to Jemaya here. Jemaya is looking for advantages. She's also out there. She's already realized that there's probably a code on the tribe flag. She's trying to figure it out without anything. And she's got a couple of methods there, trying to word it out, trying to, I guess, deconstruct or reverse engineer the code. But we all know that with that little key that Austin has, when he comes in there later on, it's really just one phrase within all of that. So there's a lot of red herring coding out there for them to get confused over. But Austin does sort of sit back, enjoy seeing people sort of trying to figure out what's going on. While going there, he decodes it and then gets another part of the immunity sort of scavenger hunt that he needs to do. He needs to go dig under a fallen prime tree. Is it the prime tree or pine tree? A pine tree, probably. Plum tree. There we go. With an X underneath it. So I feel like Austin's sort of scavenger hunt is a lot harder than Sabia's. Let's be real here. It's 2 different scavenger hunts. Like, he had a lot more going on. He had to go and decipher this thing in the middle of camp on their tribe flag. I thought it would be similar for a lot of the tribes, but again, they're kind of sticking to, even last year with the last season with the birdcage idol, everybody had like almost like a different key. There's different elements to what they're doing here. Are you liking this, Jake? Are you liking the fact that they're making it sort of different from camp to camp? And do you feel like Austin's having to work a little bit harder? Because I personally do. It looks like he's having to jump through a few more extra hoops.
Yeah, I do like that it's different at each camp. I think, obviously we can have some issues with, the balancing of it. Some tribes will have it easier, but yeah, just gives for some variety when I want to see the same sequence just with a different person at each camp three separate times. I would say that, yeah, probably Austin has it a bit harder, and I was a bit disappointed. This probably would have made it even harder than it is right now, but I was a bit disappointed that Jeremiah wasn't right, that it was some sort of alphabet, like that you had to like decode, like each character was like translated to a letter in the English alphabet, and it like spelled out like a full message instead of just one segment. That, and people pointed out on Reddit that really, if you just found the thing that Austin found, you can tell what it says. Like if you just look hard at it, you can tell that it says dig at fallen palm tree X or whatever. So really, he didn't need to wait for everybody to get out and do it. But yeah, I was a bit disappointed because I thought that when Austin first got it, that it was like giving you the alphabet. I thought that's what it was. It was going to give you the alphabet, and then you would have to stare and decode it. That would have been cooler, but probably would have made it even harder than it already was.
Especially if it's so easy especially if it seems a lot easier for Sabia, what she needs to do, even though she ended up making it pretty hard on herself at the end of the day. I feel like that's just them not paying like attention to what they're doing, or really taking a step back and looking at the coconut up in the tree and not noticing it earlier on. And that was confusing how hard they made it for themselves out there. But we will talk about that soon. I do want to move on to the blue tribe here, Kahuna. And on the blue tribe, we've got the pot of machete, the fire, things are looking on the up. Uncle Bruce is around, he's having fun. He's connecting with everybody. He's the life of the party. And it's funny because I kind of realized I was worried for Bruce in the previous episode because Katura was so much against it. But then I realized in this episode, she's really the only one that's annoyed with him at this point. And she's the only one that keeps on talking about how can they not see through this guy? How can they not see what he's doing? Well, Bruce is having the time of his life, and everybody else seems to really enjoy him out there. And I personally, I have to be honest, if I was out there, Bruce would have been my man. Like he would have been my boy out there because I would have had so much fun with him.
I would have been hating on him like Kahuna and Katura would have been. I'd be like, what the hell?
In the corner.
Like, you know how we sort of said, what do you actually say when a grown man says like, watch how hard I can punch his tree? What do you do when someone targets specifically a robot dance at you? Like it wasn't just dancing in general. He says, hey, Brando. And then he does a robot. He's like, the robot dance. Yeah, man.
You guys want to hear a scary thought I had? What if Bruce was a lawyer?
Yeah.
He'd probably be dead. Katura would have killed him.
Yeah. She would not have been happy.
We're lucky that he chose a different profession, because
I feel like Katura knows an Uncle Bruce in her real life, and it scarred her. Like she's just like, I've had too much of this kind of behavior around me in life. I don't need it out here on the island. I came here to get away from my normal everyday life. Now I've got this character out here with me. But like I said, I love it. The chat's kind of 50-50, I think, on it. Kiwi Skirt's not she's with you basically, and Katura. She's not for it. Cashwash, welcome to the live. It's always good to have you here. So much for YouTube. My phone kept saying it hadn't started. Yeah, sorry, I'm late to the party. Nah, you're just on time. Don't worry about it. Jay says it's a subjective thing. There is no right or wrong way to perceive Bruce. If he's annoying to you, you're not in the wrong. And if you're likable to you, I mean, again, different people like different strokes for different folks out there. But 100% Jake, this is a character that Bruce is playing, because you can even see when he's on the boat, he's like, okay, game mode on right now. He's not this guy. He's playing it up. And that's what I love about Bruce right now, because someone clearly told this guy beforehand. They're like, you need to be fun. You need to be likable so people would want to be around you. That's going to eliminate the threat level, and people are not maybe going to look at you as like a serious threat too early on in the game. And he's clearly playing a character, because you can see it when he talks to us. And when he goes on the boat, he's like in serious mode immediately afterwards. And that's why I love it. I think that it's super entertaining. One of the things that had me like laughing out loud was when he was in the boat as it was leaving and he was doing like the whole wave and like disappearing in the boat. I'm like, he's committed to the core schooner. He's committed till the very last minute.
This was
Again,
rehearsed.
They were adults that he was doing that to, like grown people that he's known for a week. They're not like his kids or any like. What are you doing, man? Like,
I know Brando looks like he's 16, but he's not. He's 22, Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay.
The diving down and disappearing was amazing.
Sometimes you got to sell your soul for $1 million, and that's what he's doing here. He's selling his soul because I promise you, like this is not, I don't think this is Bruce in real life, and people will obviously clarify that for us as the exit interviews and things like that happens. Kiwi Skid says Summer's okay, but Bruce is going overboard on it. Kiwi Skid, he seems to think they are children. Well, there is the age gap of like what 20 to 25 years between them, so. I don't know what I would feel like when I get closer to my 50s and I'm like playing the game with 20-year-olds. Maybe it would feel like they're like little children by that time.
Oh, man. He starts doing Wiggles dances and, tucks them in at night and stuff. Like, gosh. It's almost like, depending on the person, and this is why Katura is probably, because I think it can come off as like almost patronizing. Like you're treating us too much like kids and it's really evident. Whereas then there's someone like Jake, who's like, yay, keep dancing. It's awesome. I love this guy. So it depends on.
Yeah. Yeah. Jay says he had me laughing. Imagine if he didn't get injured and 44 Ticker would have definitely been the most character heavy tribe in the new era. That's true. But I don't, but my hot take, Jay, is that Bruce, if he played the first season, would not have played like that. I think it's one of those players from his Tika tribe who told him to play like that this season. I really feel like he spoke to someone. This is not Bruce. I'm telling you now, this is not like. I think that's
more
what's getting
of real Bruce than you think, though. I think
maybe
Bruce in real life, from what I've seen on social media, he is a bit of a character in real life.
Is he?
But
okay,
but I think you're absolutely right. He's totally playing it up to like maximum level. He's going like, his scale is going to 11 at this point.
Yeah, he's committed. He's committed. Yeah. And listen, I'm a sucker for someone just like I know a lot of people don't like the Debbies, the Philip Shepherds, the Coach Wades. I love those characters, the characters that are just like over the top and that, other people get really annoyed by them. But for me, watching it, I love seeing people get annoyed because I'm not out there on the island with them. But I think like Bruce, I would have legitimately enjoyed. Like I would not have been annoyed with him on the island. I would have been like, I'm going to get in on the pranks because being out on the island is going to be miserable most of the time. So have some fun with it, at least while you're there. Don't just be negative all the time. So, anyways, that's enough on the whole.
Speaking of Coach, did you notice the Coach reference between Bruce and Drew? I think it was it. No, not Drew. Who was it? Who had the Coach reference? Oh, Sifu. Maybe Sifu. Yeah. Sifu, where Coach said that, maybe it was Brando and Bruce. I can't remember. It was someone and Brando or Drew to either to Sifu or Bruce.
We didn't see much of Sifu. We didn't see much of Sifu.
It must be Bruce.
Probably,
he said, you feel like a coach to me. And then Bruce.
It was, yeah.
He did like the martial arts bow, thinking, and I was like, I think he meant a coach, and I think Bruce heard coach. Like, like I was like seeing like when you think, oh, a coach, like as in a sports coach, basketball coach, you don't often get the martial arts like bow. Like I was like, wait, he said a coach, and I think he heard coach. Like
that's really funny.
Yeah, this was funny as well. Bruce name dropping Kane when talking about the previous players, like so random. Like Kane of all people, like, hey, Kane's a pretty good guy,
Like the Couture to hold that one too. It's like, look at him, he's name dropping. He said Kane. Like,
it's like Kane's like the least. Like it's different if he would have been like, yeah, I talk to Yam Yam all the time, a winner of Survivor.
I was on Tyson's,
the guy that I was
Tyson's
on
podcast. Like. Jeff
Jay
wanted me here specifically. Jeff invited me back, to this season. They're like, no. He didn't say any of that. He's like, Kane. Kane's the name drop.
Yeah, it was random. Apparently, Jay says there's speculation that he talked with Yam Yam before going out there, and Yam Yam was a big character as well.
And to everybody out.
He probably would have. Yeah. I don't think it's a big secret either. But we go back to the Yellow Tribe at this stage, and Emily's out idle hunting Jake. What did you think of this whole scene? The fact that they weren't leaving her alone, they were chasing her around, and Emily just being upfront and saying, "Listen, I don't trust you, Sabia. I'm sorry. You're here to keep tabs on me. I'd rather go my own way." A bit awkward, but I guess this is where you're at when your game has been this bulldozy. I guess up until this, is that a word? It's been this aggressive up until this point.
I mean, yeah, she's at that point. I think she was like still in the mindset of like, I just got to commit to this. I already went down the road. Got to keep going. Very awkward. Very awkward. Especially, although props, I guess, for the first time in a while for Emily, actually aware of like, you're not really like, you guys don't really want to group idle hunt.
No.
Where like some players we've seen would not get that. That's like, hey, we specifically don't want you to get it, so we're gonna keep tabs on you. And I mean, Emily being Emily and just being like, yeah, I know what you guys are doing, and I'm not down for it.
Yeah, and I think that she was backed into a corner. It was okay at that stage to just be honest and be selfish in the moment and try and look for it yourself. I will say, after coming pretty hard at Emily in the first week for her aggressive way of playing the game, I felt really bad when she was crying out there. Like, I was like, man, she's having a really rough time. And I was like, I just wanted to come in here and say, Emily, I don't know if she can win. I still feel like a lot of growth needs to happen for that to happen. Stranger things have happened, but I felt bad for coming just as hot at her for how she played the game in the first week when I saw her really isolated on her own. Like, you don't want to see people struggle like that, but sometimes, Kahuna, that is when the most growth happens in life, and when you find things out about yourself when you're at the bottom, I feel like. And like Jeff sort of said towards the end of the episode as well, and we can get annoyed with Jeff sometimes when he becomes talk show Jeff, but the game really, the journey is different for everybody out there. And this is a part of Emily's journey and her personal growth where maybe friends out there won't always be as honest with her as strangers would be in this scenario. And she had a really low moment here.
Yeah, and it was actually really good to see that she took the feedback from her tribe and actually tried to improve on it and tried to use it. And we saw over the course of one episode, like maybe that's one of the benefits of the 90 minutes, but it basically turned her fortunes around and her standings around. Much of it because of the way she interacted with the tribe. She came a lot more humble, changed her attitude towards them. And it also happened to coincide with Brandon doing Brandon things, but her ability to listen and take on board feedback from her tribe is almost like a rare skill in this game. People often double down or get angry and upset about whatever feedback they may get. But when you're back against the corner, your numbers are down. The only real option is to kind of placate and trying to do what your tribe wins to curry favor, to win favor. And if that means self-improvement, then even better for someone like Emily, who showed like she was kind of almost like the star of this episode, just doing that very short redemption tour of trying to interact with a tribe and trying to get back in the good graces of a tribe after a pretty shocking debut. And I think she's done pretty good at it.
I agree. Jay here also says Emily's kind of growing on me, which is exactly how I felt in this episode. Like, I'm not like team Emily yet, but she's making moves in the right direction where I'm like, okay, at least she is willing to learn, willing to adapt out there. She's not just going to continue on this spiral out of the game, being overly aggressive. And then Andrew Lee says, please not a Spencer type edit for Emily. I've learned a lot and have grown, blah, blah, blah edit. And also my number one most dislike final tribal types of speech. Danica saying she should have taken that as a sign, though, and agreed to go in pairs. She was still being too antisocial and hostile. Instead, she rebuffed them. I'm glad she started to warm up. Yep, especially I think the next day she had some time to lie down and think about it afterwards. And then Jay here says, here's my theory. Emily's making the finale, gets a growth edit. The editors put the winner's quote about her being voted out first if she didn't win to make people think she'll win, but she won't. I don't think she can win. And again, stranger things have happened. I just feel like she kind of said it in this episode where she said she still has that in her, to want to bulldoze and be aggressive, but she's going to have to learn to rein it in. So I feel like instinctively it's very hard to change who you are in the middle of a 26-day game where people are going to come for you and they're going to try and take your head off. Like, you're going to revert back to who you are at your core. You can't play a character for that whole time. It's too stressful. So I think that personally think, we'll talk about it later on because I want to talk about the move of keeping her in the game. Cashwash says Emily needs to not assume, judge people immediately, isolate herself from instead of trying to connect with them better. She seems to see her flaws a bit, so hopefully she grows over time. Dolores, welcome to the chat. Dolores says, hi guys, late to the party, but Emily needed that wake-up call. She knew she had the attitude when she interviewed and did not care. So this was a great wake-up call. She comes across for me as typically, some people in life, they think people will adapt to them and they don't adapt to others. And I think she went in with that, well, they'll just accept me how I am, and then realize, no, actually, there's more of them than me. I need to actually adapt myself instead of them adapting to me. And I think she had to get that wake-up call as well. But it was good to see that little bit of growth there. I want to talk about the next really interesting thing that happened here on the Yellow Tribe. Brandon and Sabia find the Beware advantage. Well, technically, Brandon finds a Jake. I've always been a really big believer that if you see the Beware advantage, your vote is so critical in the smaller tribes. But I also understand that if you don't have it, potentially someone else has got it. And that could also be your downfall in the game. So it really is a very, very tight. You're between a rock and a hard place when you find that bad boy. But Brandon here chooses to give it up and rather give the Beware advantage to Sabia. What did you think of this move in the moment? If we're not results focused, which obviously Brandon ends up needing something at the end, but what did you think of it in total?
In the moment, I didn't think it was too bad. I think the logic was there of, I need my vote. I was almost voted out had it not been for Hannah quitting. That is like literally my only way to show trust or like definitively prove trust to my tribe is to have my vote and vote the way I say I will. And to not have that is bad, and we'll get to it. But he completely goes against his own logic later in the episode. But in this first situation, I was like, yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, it made no sense that he was happy to go onto the boat and risk his vote when he's willing to give this away to Sabia, especially if Sabia was someone he trusted as a potential ally in the game. He already knows one of his allies does not have a vote. So him not having a vote with his ally is probably the worst position you could be in. Because what I like about it personally, Kuna, is that he had an ally in Sabia, which he manufactured or created by giving her the Beware advantage. She really wanted to take that risk. So now he's got an ally, but she is reliant on him for his vote because she doesn't have one, which makes him more valuable in Sabia's eyes, which is great. It's great strategy, in my opinion. Plus, if you really need to get rid of Sabia in the future, you know where the bodies are buried. You know where the idol is. So in theory, it's a great move. But like anything else, it seemed like he was a bit scatterbrained because he just didn't follow through correctly in the next move, which was not to get on the boat and go and risk your vote. Like, you could get on the boat, but just don't risk your vote.
Yeah, like I think he did the right calculations at the start. There was only going to be benefits in solidifying that relationship with Sabia. I also think Sabia did the right thing in taking it. Like, even though in a small tribe, holding onto your vote is important, understanding context of where you sit within your tribe, they both kind of made the right decision. That Brandon definitely was on the outs. He knows that he's a detriment to his tribe's success, so he's going to need something, but he does not back himself to be able to do a Beware advantage. Like, he's seen the track history of how difficult they can be. Whereas Sabia knew that she's kind of in a good position in the tribe and can take that risk if Brandon's giving her that level of trust, and she feels that she's in pretty good with Caleb. So I liked it. I think it's pretty good. But yeah, you're right. Immediately having that logic in your brain of, I need to protect my vote, I'm at the bottom, I don't have enough, and then immediately turning around and then risking your vote again anyway, backing himself to do something confidently when only the scene before we're getting I can't do this. I want nothing to do with beware advantages. It's so anxiety ridden. Like I got to give it to Sevilla. So I don't know how we're seeing these two different versions of him, but yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. He was all over the place, his gameplay. We'll talk about that towards the end when we obviously talk about the conclusion of this episode for him. But another really interesting thing here, a lot happening in the Yellow Tribe, a lot happening here with Lulu. We also have Caleb reaching out to Emily, which I think if he didn't do that, I think Emily would not have gone on the campaign trail. She would have not tried to change her game. She probably would have crashed and burned. He really gave her a life raft here or a life vest, in this situation where she's out in deep waters, swimming and sinking, trying to survive. He really helped her in this moment. And it is about Caleb trying to expand his options. He's already got Sabia in his mind. He's already got Sean. He's somewhat in there. Maybe he's seeing that Sabia and Sean are closer to each other than what he necessarily would be to both of them. So he needs to have another option. It seemed like really good play overall here from him. And what I liked about this move here, Jake, is that so often in Survivor, we say that when a player's at the bottom, sometimes the majority alliances forget that those players that are at the bottom, there's still a potential number. There's still value in them. Even if they're like broken right now, you can work with them. You can rebuild their confidence and give them a lifeline that maybe they will not forget in the game. And you've got a loyal alliance member for the rest of the game moving forward. So I really enjoy the fact that he did see that as an option here in this episode, because a lot of players would not have done this.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I love it because Caleb is in a very good spot in his tribe. Obviously, at this point, they hadn't lost the immunity challenge yet. And so in his head, he's thinking, if I lose, there's no chance I'm getting voted off. I'm like one of the, I'm like the best challenge performer on this tribe. Brandon and Emily are clearly the two. A lot of players would have that mindset of, so I can just chill. I don't got to do anything. People are on the bottom. They can stay there, for all I care. He's going beyond that. He's looking ahead. He's saying, this is not where it ends. There's more to this game than that. And he's networking. It's like Drew with the Ivy League mindset, networking, all keeping all his options open. I love it.
Yeah, and I think that Emily is that kind of person that would look at that and really take it to heart, because probably a lot of people in life don't always get her. So that one person on the island that is reaching out to her saying, hey, I get you. I understand. You had a rough start. That's okay. This is not going to define you for the rest of the game. I think Emily will really take that to heart and potentially will become loyal to Caleb in the game. I'm less so certain if she's going to be loyal to Sabia and to Sean in the game, though. But I think by Caleb being the first person to reach out to her, that was a really good move. Kuhn, I want to come to you with the next part of this, because we've had longer episodes this season, which I think has been a slam dunk. We've known for a long time that International Survivor really benefits from the longer episodes, because we get to see more character development. We get to see a little bit more of what's going on. Anything where we can see in this complex game where there's so many moving parts, where we get to see a little bit more gameplay, a little bit more character development, even having the intros back. We've never even talked about that. That's amazing as well. And it really gives that old school feel to Survivor, like it's true Survivor, we get this extra scene, which I think we would not have seen if the 90-minute episode didn't exist. And this is with Dee and her very long big toe. What did you think of this scene out there? I know you're all for the character moments, Kuna.
I think she's wasting potential money. Everyone knows on the internet, no free feet pics is a rule. If you're on the internet, you can charge for that, Dee. That is a very specific tool that you have there that you can use for your reason. But people,
she could be getting commission from CBS. We don't know.
Yeah,
extra on top of her Survivor appearance. She's like, "Hey, I know you're thinking about putting that scene in. I know it. You better pay up."
Royalties, royalties for
exactly.
Well, there's a separate paywall, cbs.com/feet finder or whatever it is. But I love that scene. I picked Dee and I was happy. I feel like my choice for my team is cemented even more by the fact that she's got this abnormally large toe, which she like even in the confessional, she's doing the one-on-one talking head and she's ripping off planks with her
that was
toe.
crazy.
She's pinching other people. Like, I can't wait to see it played out like a tiny bit. She had the balance beam in the thing,
Yeah.
but I'm waiting for some challenge, some immunity
It's the
challenge where
challenge.
the toe
The one,
plays a
the
role.
one, the one where you have to pick up the
puzzle
flag,
pieces.
Yeah.
the puzzle pieces, and then the flag at the
Yes.
end. She's gonna win it, and it's all gonna come full circle.
Or she's going to be the merge boot because of it. People are going to be like, we can't let her get to that challenge.
Exactly, because that's normally like the second or
toe.
third challenge after the merge. They're like, we can't let it happen.
Merge boot. That toe is too dangerous. First
They need
time
a
somebody
bigger
will
boot,
get
that's
voted
for
out.
sure. A special custom sized boot.
Yeah. Another
That
great
was
moment
great.
here.
I loved it.
Another great moment here that we have on the Reba tribe is that we knew that the three girls were in an alliance in blue. We knew that the alliance that were forming on yellow was between Sabia, Caleb, and Sean, but we didn't really know where the power structure sat within the red tribe until this episode. But now we're seeing Julie, who I'm feeling more and more good about. Like, I mean, she was one of my later picks in my team. Really come out as the mother figure here, and she's starting to pull some people together. Who would have known? She gets Drew. I love Drew. I continue to love Drew throughout this. I know he may be in a little bit of trouble for coming into next episode, but if there is someone with a big enough personality to potentially get themselves out of it, I'll back my man Drew at this stage. I'm all in on that. But, you know, Julie and Drew coming together and then wanting to work with Austin and Dee. Potentially an alliance here that could form. I'm just hoping that Drew doesn't mess up too badly going into the next episode. And I'm hoping that it's a red herring, because we do sometimes get that next on Survivor. Russell Hans is in trouble. He's going to go home, and then he ends up dominating the vote in any case, right? So, Jake, where do you lean on this? Alliance forming and where it potentially could go, I guess.
So, I mean, I must need to be filled in. Was there something in the next on that made it seem like Drew was in trouble?
Yeah, so Drew apparently, well, we might as well talk about it right now since we've brought it up. Obviously, Drew, really good position. At this point, I'm like thinking, wow, winners hit it. The way things are going for him up until this episode. And him getting that very solid alliance with Austin when he comes back, because he goes to Decision Island, plays it honest when he comes back, which I don't know if any of you watched my top 5 takes this week. We do need to talk about this a little bit as well. I feel like the Decision Island, Shipwheel Island is a no choice nowadays, because everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows you get on the boat, you're going to potentially come back with an advantage. So you can't keep it a secret anymore. You have to be honest. Like, if you're trying to be like, oh no, we just went out there and they gave us some cookies and we could talk about, you know, something in the future. Like, it's not gonna...
except there was that one episode in 44 where Carolyn, Danny, and Brandon, and I remember, I think we talked about it in that episode's recap of like, yeah, they're gonna come back and explain what happened, and no one's gonna believe them, because that's the only time that they haven't had a chance to get an advantage. But overall, I definitely agree that, yeah, at this point, you have to if you're going to lie, you have to incorporate somehow, I had a choice to get an advantage. You're going to have to lie and say like, oh, I didn't risk my vote, you know, but you have to include the part about there being a chance to get an advantage, because no one's going to believe it.
Exactly. Otherwise. So I feel like it's a no choice, and Drew coming back, being honest, obviously leads into him being even more trusted by Austin, and Austin and him get the whole Stephen Fish back, JT thing going. I mean, I don't know why it isn't Wendell and Dom. No one ever talks about Wendell and Dom. It's always JT and Fishback. That's where they go back to.
People want to forget that season.
Yeah, I don't know why. I still like the season, but I know a lot of people are not the same. They're not with me on that. I'm definitely in the minority. But, you know, JT and Stephen Fishback, I'm assuming Drew is playing down himself and being the Stephen Fishback in this moment, where Austin is the JT. But obviously, Austin shares some critical information at this point in the game, and he tells him about the fact that he's got the Beware advantage. So things are looking on the up here for Drew. Like, it's just, you know, he's getting all the information. People want to work with him. He's super charismatic because he's playing as Bastille, not as Drew at this stage in the game. And next on, they show him out idol hunting. I believe that's what he's doing. So I don't know if it's potentially him taking the clue that Austin gave him and looking out on his own, trying to get it for himself. But Dee says that she feels heartbroken by it, and that that he potentially could have betrayed. So I don't
He
know
was
if it's just like,
heartbroken.
something like that. So I don't know if it's
Wow.
like just a red herring or if there's going to be more to it.
I think that's
it's a red
definitely a red herring. I think that she's heartbroken about something else, and they're making it seem like that him searching for an idol is what's breaking her heart, and they're just clipping them together. But yeah, man. The only thing I'll say about Basile is he's a bit high on his own supply at the moment. I think he could get into some trouble with his confidence. Maybe he could get flanked.
I love it.
Although I will say he doesn't really have much reason to not be confident at this point.
Yeah, and what I like about it so far is that clearly when he's talking to like Julie in this moment, he's like, "Oh, I like you. You're the mother." He's got this calming effect. Like he's not, but the confident, cocky Bastille is not how he's communicating with other people on the island. That is how he's talking to us, the audience. Yes, he's like the life a little bit, but he's got this two sides to him, which I think is going to help when he communicates to certain people, even when he communicates with Austin about the alliance. Like he's not being cocky in that moment. Like he's very calm. He seems like a very likable person, someone you'd like to be friends with, So I think he's doing a good job there. I saw like a bunch of comments. Yeah, you go for it, Kahuna.
How he approached going to the island, he goes, he's like, "Oh, I'm going to see this like a networking activity at Harvard." Like, just trying to use it as like very like Winklevoss twins kind of vibe. Like he was like, "You're not going to row boats, man." But yeah, like I did like that he showed, like he went the extra step. He said, "Not only am I going to be telling you how honest I am about what happened out there, here's the letter, here's everything." And he really like the advantage was that he now has a safety in power, safety without power advantage, which you can tell your team because it's not the most scary kind of advantage for someone to have, right? So it's okay for them to know that you have that. And also like, he's looking at he's probably looking across at Lulu. He's looking at his own team. He's seeing they just won the immunity, right? So he's like, the chances of me having to use this anytime soon is fairly low. Not only because I don't think we're going to lose a challenge, but also even if we did, I'm in a really good position. So he has no downside of being open and honest about that, because at some point he's hoping to use it for the tribe as a whole. So he's solidifying himself with everyone through there. He's then got the relationship with Julie. He's got the fishback JT with Austin. And he maybe, I don't know for sure what the relationship was like, but he maybe only got told about the advantage from Austin because he was forthcoming about his the Shipwheel Island thing. So yeah, like advantages all around there. And then Brandon on the opposite end. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but walking to the challenge, like to the puzzle, this dude fell down walking on rocks. Like he can't do anything. He can't even walk to the challenge, let alone defeat it. Like it was so hilarious. So
one thing that I really, really underestimated about Brandon was I did not even think about that he would be terrible in challenges. Like I was just like, I mean, he doesn't look like super fit and in shape, but like I wasn't thinking like this dude won't be able to climb a ladder.
Yeah,
this dude won't be able to walk across.
I'm not gonna lie, Jake. Me and Kahuna had a chat after the draft, and we were like, did it feel like Jake chose all like the nerdy superfans in this tribe? And like he's like, yeah, because you had like that archetype down pat. You didn't have variety coming into this game. It was like you were like, I need to choose some people that are big in the Survivor fandom and that I can go play Dungeons and Dragons with. It's kind of what we thought afterwards.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Kane would have been proud. Kane would have been proud.
What's really, really ironic about that is that I had a choice between Brando and Drew, and I literally did not choose Drew because I thought he's too nerdy and too. But Brando hasn't been like crazy, like
No, he's doing good.
He's
we'll
doing
talk
good.
about him soon.
We'll get to that. But it's just funny that like, Drew is like, actually, I've got this alter ego where I'm like a total Chad, and like I'm a complete like, super charismatic, and it's like, I had no idea. Yeah, I want to say somebody mentioned it, but I think I mentioned this too, that people were upset about Drew being cast because they felt like it's a archetype that's been overdone.
I don't
And
think Drew is. I
it's
think Drew
hard.
is kind of unique. I think
Yes.
I think if
Yes.
you at a superficial level looked at Drew, you'd be like, Cochran. But he's not. He's nothing like Cochran. He's got that two sides to him. He's got like the fun, outgoing jock side that he can almost turn on, like the broy frat boy archetype, and then he's got the more. I don't even know if it's nerdy. Like even his calm side, I don't feel like maybe he's a little bit more introverted, but he doesn't, to me,
It's
come
really
across
just
as
his
nerdy.
appearance. They're just
Yeah.
going off of how he looks. He looks like Napoleon Dynamite. He looks like a little bit like Cochran. It looks like that if he were to stand in the sun for 5 minutes, he turn red like a tomato. But I mean,
poor guy. No, he's playing
like
a good game.
He's a foot taller than
cliche,
Cochran,
but
though.
don't judge a book by its cover.
He seems tall and like
he's
super big.
Tall.
Like
he's super tall. Yeah,
but listen, Randy doesn't like a lot of people. Like if you're hated by Randy, then that's just part of the initiation of becoming a Survivor player, I think.
Literally, Randy does not like anybody except he did like Brandon because Brandon met him when he was younger, and he's like, I can't be mean to this guy.
Just before we move on from this segment, I just want to say the safety without power can only be played up until 10 players left in the game. So again, I agree with you, Kahuna. It's not that threatening. Like, I mean, 10 players left in the game. It's like at the merge, pretty much. He can play it still, and then it's gone. So for the second half of the game, it's not going to be a big factor. So he definitely won a lot more than what he lost by sharing information with his tribe. The fact that he now know about the Bavaria advantage. He does have some ammunition in his back pocket if things do blow up for him going into next week. But a lot of good things were mentioned here. A lot of people in the chat did bring up things around the challenge for the immunity, which we will talk about. I promise I'll bring it up when we talk about the immunity. We haven't spoken about it yet, Dolores, but I did see your comment. I wanted to talk quickly about the actual challenge on Shipwheel Island, Decision Island, whatever we call it. They had these patterns that they had to put together, Jake. You're more of our puzzle guy, the engineer here. Then they had to get the numbers. It didn't look overly complicated. What went wrong here for Brandon in this moment? He struggled with the patterns here. He struggled with the patterns on the coral puzzle. I saw a couple of images on Reddit. I actually did jump on Reddit, which I don't do very often, where people showed him trying to fit things with the coral puzzle. Like the patterns like sideways. It's like horizontal.
I saw that.
I'm like, so the guy clearly can't do patterns. Like, what was going on? What was your thoughts about, I guess, this puzzle? Let's talk about this one first, and we can come back to the coral puzzle later on.
So, I mean, he was just rushing. I mean, that's really all there is to it. I mean, we saw he had time to pull the freaking thing like 10 times.
1,000 times.
But he went way too fast with the tiles. And I mean, I knew in the middle of it that he was wrong because I saw when they had the sequence of the Dream Team doing it, 81 was one of the numbers, and he didn't have that number. And I was like, he's wrong. He's going to switch him. You could switch him around all you want. It's not going to change that it's wrong. And I hadn't caught which tile was wrong. But when they showed it afterwards, I was like, it wasn't even really close. Like it was one of those like evenly spaced around up and down and side to side, and then the other one had like 3 like all on one side, and it's like if you look at them for more than a second, you can clearly see they're not the same. And he just went, it's just pressure. I mean, I don't know. As I mentioned earlier, his logic was thrown out the window. I don't know what happened. It's just bad.
Yeah, it was. I think he was nervous in the moment. Obviously, having the hourglass there to go against probably doesn't help. Drew stayed calm. He did clutch it out, but Bruce made a completely different decision, which I think, Kahuna, I have to commend him on not doing this challenge. If you're feeling 50-50 about your ability to do a puzzle, you don't know what the puzzle looks like until you actually get out there. And then there's a combination of you solving a puzzle and then having to do a combination lock to be able to win it. I think with that kind of information, you don't take the risk, especially for Bruce, because him and Jake are kind of on the outs. Brando, he's starting to form a relationship with, but he doesn't know how solid that is. And he knows that the girls are tight at camp. So I feel like with the numbers the way it is in blue, he made the best move he possibly could, not risking his vote in this moment. Were you impressed by him? I know you're not impressed by the fact that he's this character out there, but can you at least say that there was a little bit of strategy behind the character of Bruce this episode and not doing that because of how the numbers is back at camp?
Yeah, for sure. Like when it comes to 6 people, like your vote matters. Like it's super important. And the fact that he was able to keep that in mind and not sort of get lost in the moment of, oh, I get to do this challenge and get an advantage, and that power can be really kind of overwhelming for some people. So to be able to have that restraint is important. I love the bonus fact that I don't even know if he's aware that he has a mortal enemy in Katura who wanted to go, and he scissor paper rocked her for it, and then still didn't even take up the chance. Like he insisted on being there and fought to go out there to the point of doing, the time honored tradition of scissors paper rock, and then just didn't take up the thing anyway. Katura's like, Bruce again. Like she wanted that. She was willing to go, and then he's like, nah, I'm gonna take your spot, and then not.
But
do
still a good
anything with
move.
it. It's a
still
good
a
move.
good
It's a smart move,
because he's blocking someone else from potentially getting it as well. So it's a legitimate strategy to say, listen, I'll go out there, I'm not going to take it, but at least I know someone that is in that girl group who's forming against me. They're not necessarily going to be getting it either. I don't know if he's got if he's got the awareness of it to that degree, but he's probably seeing them hanging out a lot on the beach and thinking, well, they're hanging out a lot with each other. I don't have that same. I'm sure he's picking up that Katura or Kendra isn't as close to him. So he probably doesn't want them necessarily to get a bit of power here as well. But this does lead into, and Kiwi's could say for Bruce, it was an iffy move because he risked the tribe thinking he did get something when he isn't telling them. I do think when you're like that confident about the fact, listen, I didn't take it because I've got my vote. I've got my vote. I'm still going to be able to vote. There is a potential risk that he did get it and he's got the vote, I guess, and some people may think that, but it seemed like it worked out for him in this moment because he does end up solidifying his trust and his bond with Jake. I was very worried for Jake in the previous episode. The next one doesn't look good for Jake, by the way. We'll talk about that at the end as well.
But reverse psychology, that means it is good for him because we know because in the last one, it was like, Emily's gone. She's done. And so
and it didn't end up like that. So hopefully he is okay. But he forms that thing with Jake. He has this conversation with Brando, and then we also find out that Kelly is quite close to Bruce Kahuna. Was that a bit of a shock for you? Because that came out of left field. It looks like Kelly is going to be the decision maker in this tribe. She can choose to either play with the girls, or she had the strategy coming into the season that she can bro it out with the boys if she needs to. So she is kind of leaning towards tribe strength at this stage. And it's looking like probably the most interesting tribe strategically at the moment.
Yeah, versatility is important. Like if you've got options, that's always a good thing to have, especially when you're doing that very sort of stereotypical survivor decision of strength versus, loyalty, which we've seen today with Brandon and Emily making thing. And it's almost like Kelly's got to make a decision for herself as well. Like, is she going to feel stronger with the girl alliance or with Bruce? Like, and she can go either way. I think as long as they're still successful and still winning, where the danger isn't necessarily our tribe is the weakest, I would probably go not with Bruce and Jake. I would stick with the women if that's what seemed like a plausible scenario, because I think that's a better outcome for her. I think if she goes with Bruce and Jake, she'd be at the bottom of that trio.
I don't agree necessarily. Let me tell you why I don't necessarily agree. I think that Brando is very close to her as well. I think Jake potentially in that scenario would only have Bruce. Bruce seems really close with Kelly. It's almost like this father-daughter, uncle-daughter, whatever you want to call it, type of relationship. But Brando and Kelly, I think they on purpose showed us that scene for Brando where he came in, kind of had the buff as a top, played with the girls a little bit, and it ingratiated him a little bit with Kelly as well. But immediately after the conversations, you see Kelly and Brando sort of going together, talking about should we work with Bruce. So I feel like they're closer probably than what we realize. And I've got to say, at this point, if I had to make a very hot call on who would win, Drew's playing the out there game. He's playing that like, oh, this guy could win. But I actually think Kelly, in my estimation at the moment, is a real threat to win this season right now because of the versatility and where she potentially places herself. I feel like she's smarter than Bruce and Jake in the game. I feel like she could outplay them.
Yeah, for sure.
Kachura is a danger. Kachura is a danger. I would be worried if I was with Kachura and Kendra. I'd be like, Kachura is going to slip my throat at some point in the game. Like, I just feel like if the girl alliance is a thing, it would be exciting to see who between Kelly and Kachura would become the biggest player out of the two of them.
That's her and Brando. It's her and Brando. Who do them as a pair that are strong have a better chance of peeling off one of the others? Could she get a Bruce or a Jake versus could she get a Kendra or a Katura to join? Like, because you need that extra number, right? Once you need the numbers, you need the 3 out of once it becomes 5 or whatever. Who do you have a better chance of bringing into the Kelly and Brando group? Is it better to go with a Bruce or a Jake or a Katura or a Kendra?
I think Katura's in danger. I think she's in danger at the moment. I think that Kendra is someone that would be easier to bring across and would be more adaptable to working with them just because of her dislike for Bruce at this stage. So I would be a little bit worried there, but it's a lot of ifs and buts. Overall, I still think Jake is still kind of on the outside of that group, even if they're together. I feel like he only has Bruce at this stage, right, Jake?
I get really, really bad vibes about Jake's game. I don't know why. Like, there isn't really, all we're going off of is the episode preview from not just last week, but this week. And Katura's comments about him being a lawyer and like playing that up. And obviously the fact that there's a girls alliance, but it's vibes, man. I get weird vibes about Jake. I feel like if they were to go to tribal council, I feel like he'd be in real danger because it seems like, Kelly, if she were to side with the girls, she would want to keep her options open and say, hey, or she may not say this, but she would push for Jake to be voted out because she's close with Brando and Bruce.
She still has the middle. She could still either go with the 2 boys or with the 2 girls, depending on. She's still more.
That still gives her the options. The numbers would still be there. So which is
I'm kind of with you on that. I think
it sucks because he was my first pick. And we have the same name. Jake's got to stick together.
Maybe he needs to do more dancing. Get people inside. Bruce, it's working for Bruce. He needs to do more dances.
Yeah, he needs to start just doing the robot.
Yeah.
Who's the 5th co-host? That's Jake's dog. Salt and Pepper. They said
his name's Benny, and he's screaming at nothing right now. So I have to keep muting and unmuting myself right now.
Kiwi Skits is here. Drew or Caleb would be my picks to win the season at this point. My opinion could easily change next week, though. I just feel personally Caleb is in a really bad spot. Like, I want to see how he gets from a tribe that is probably going to go in with the fewest numbers into a merge and how he can make it. I mean, the new school survivor, we just saw it happen, but will it happen twice in a row? Will there be another Tika situation with Lulu? I don't think that the players are there. I love both I love both Caleb and Sabia, but I don't know if they're a Yam Yam, a Carson, and a Carolyn. I just don't know if they're that level of game player. And if like Lightning can strike twice in a row, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. Camelo, Richard in the chat here, our normal co-host for Survivor South Africa content, saying Jake is cooked with 2 laughing faces. Team Emily and Austin for the final 2. What a pair that would be. I don't know if Austin could handle Emily and the heat that she's about to bring when they get to the merge. But let's move on to the immunity challenge. I did want to talk a little bit about that. We see Kahuna 2 really good new rules introduced to the game. We just had someone sit out and sit their way out of Survivor in the previous season. And Claire, she never participated in a single season and got booted. Jeff didn't want to have any of that this season. He said that no player can sit out twice in a row anymore, a change to the rules. And also another change to the rules that were brought in here was, what was it? It was that, Jake, and then what was the other change here? There was two changes. I forgot the second one. One blank.
I don't know if it was like an explicit like rule change, but are you referring to the fact that Jeff was like, "This is a new puzzle. You couldn't have prepared. You couldn't have 3D printed this one, Carson."
Yeah,
you
can't game it,
nerd.
Yeah, how dare you? Well, I think. Do you feel like the podcasters, Kahuna, got to Jeff a little bit, because a lot of us were like critical of the fact that they've been lazy with the puzzles and they're not innovating? What did you think of these two changes coming into the immunity challenge?
I mean, wanting to make the changes is good. Executing those changes is always another thing, because was the puzzle that different? Like, I really got the vibe that the puzzle's basically the same puzzle, right? Like, yeah,
it looked like it had a lot more pieces to it.
Got a different template.
I think it had a lot more pieces to it. Yeah.
When we said innovate, we didn't mean change the picture. You know what I mean? Like, change the puzzle. Like, a slide puzzle is still a slide puzzle, even if you have Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse on it. It's still the same kind of puzzle. So they just changed the painting, but it's essentially the same thing. Which, you know, I don't know.
You weren't as excited.
Like, I was excited when he said it, but when and clearly for Brandon, it was incredibly different puzzle. Like, there's no way because he didn't even know that coral grows in the same direction. So it was clearly very puzzling for someone like Brandon. But I looked at it and go, yeah, it's a different tree. Like it's a different plant. Normally it's some sort of tree or whatever. Now it's coral. Okay, so different. Nice one, Jeff. But
yeah, a lot of people in the chat weren't that impressed by it either. they didn't feel like it was that different. But
also, I felt like the puzzle had this like advantage some teams over others. Like, even though Reba won, the fact that their coral color was red on red, like working out the different strains, maybe it's different in person, but on TV, their puzzle of red on red looked really difficult. Whereas
I get what you mean. Yeah,
just the color contrast, it didn't stand out. Whereas the yellow and green and the purple and blue was super easy to see where the tendrils go of the coral, kind of thing.
I've felt that way with some puzzles. I couldn't tell you which one specifically, but I remember feeling that exact same way during puzzles of like, just visually it looks harder.
Yeah,
even though it's obviously not, but it's just the it's the colors that they're not as contrasted, I guess.
Kiwi Scoot here says, I'd seen every season since the beginning until season 43, which I didn't finish. And last season, I didn't even bother watching, hoping this season brings me back. Well, Kiwi, I hope by having this community here on the Nullified Take channel where you can jump in and have a chat with us, that it will keep you invested throughout the season. Because there have been times that the likes of myself and Jake and Kahuna didn't watch 41, 42, and 43. He only came back for 44. There's been times where we've been frustrated.
He did watch 41, right?
I watched 41.
So 40,
42, 43.
42, 43. Yeah. So I get it. I get it. Like, there are times when I look at Survivor and I'm like, it's not what it used to be. There are still things I think that are missing, but I try and be glass half full, not glass half empty at this stage. I'm really trying to be positive. And this season so far, Jake, it's had its ups and its downs, but I feel like there has been more ups than downs for me at this stage. Slightly. We're always going to be critical because we're very passionate as fans.
Yeah. So last season I liked because I feel like it was like in spite of like everything. It was like just the cast was really, really good. You know,
entertaining.
Carolyn, Jam Jam, and Carson all in the final four and all started on the same tribe. Like, are you kidding me? That's killer right there. And there were a bunch of great casting decisions that season, but the format was like, still the same. And we're still seeing that, but it's with the 90-minute episodes. They've got. I mean, seriously, I was really, really impressed. Like, in the moment, I was like, yeah, that was good. But then as I thought about it more, I was like, holy crap! Like, think about how much we just got. we got like a whole evolution in one episode of with Emily. You know,
Yeah.
that whole thing would have taken up an entire episode prior to this. You know, we got a bunch about Drew, we got some character moments with Sifu and Dee. You know, we got to basically we finally get to learn the dynamics of the Red Tribe. We know the dynamics on every tribe, guys.
Which is very rare.
This does
Very
not
rare.
happen. This does not normally happen in the New Era episode 2. You know, like, do you remember 41 where it was like, what is happening on the Blue Tribe?
Yeah, we had no idea. And the winner came from the Blue Tribe. And we
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah, and I think it was Deshaun, like every once in a while they'd go to Deshaun and he would say, I don't like Erica. She's sneaky. You know,
Yeah,
but then
we need
we
to get
find
rid of
out we find out later on that she really wasn't in danger. That was completely manufactured to make it like, hey, she was in danger, but then she crawled back and she won, you know, to make it look more
Good.
interesting.
Yeah. All right, the immunity challenge. I don't think there's much else we need to touch on here. It's the classic run, smash something out of a tower, swim, go over a balance beam, get to the end, do the puzzle. We do end up with a pretty close finish between the red and blue tribe here. Red just inching it out, which made me very happy because I have 3 red players in my draft, so that did definitely help a little bit with points. So I may have like fist bumped in the room alone when that happened, you know, just a little bit excited. But outside of that, you know, nothing too big there. The yellow tribe, absolute hot mess. Sabia and Brandon just can't get it together. They end
get
up
like
losing it.
3 pieces. They only got like
That
3
was-
pieces total at the end.
I'm
Yeah,
not
they
kidding.
didn't
It didn't look like they got a single one. They probably did, but I remember I was watching. I was like, "Are they even going to get a single one?" Like,
That's embarrassing, man.
It's hard. It really is hard to overstate how bad Brandon was at this puzzle. Like, it really is
Horrible.
At
It
this game,
really
at
is.
Survivor.
Like, it really is. Like, I know these puzzles are hard. They're hard. They're hard. You're tired. You're hungry. You're under pressure. You're nervous. I get that, but like, oh my gosh, you mentioned it. Like, he was trying to put pieces on that weren't even close. Like, it was bad. It was so
But would
bad.
sit there for
Yeah.
ages. Like he wouldn't even notice once. Like if you hold a piece up and put it on top, you should have pattern recognition. Go, okay, I can see that doesn't make sense there. But he kept doing it for the same piece and was like it clearly doesn't fit there. Like you can see it immediately. Brandon is a really bad Survivor player. Like
Yeah.
as far as challenges goes, he is. I've never seen. I wouldn't say he's the worst player because he got to the second episode, right? He didn't get voted out straight away. We've seen people quit. We've seen
And
all that.
I mean, from what we know, it was Emily that was going home. It wasn't going to be
Yeah.
Brandon, because at
So
that point
he's
they didn't truly know how bad he was at challenge.
He's just only not the worst player by the worst player in the history of the game being in his team, Hannah quitting on the first
day.
tribal council. Like, I mean, I don't think it gets any worse than that. Like, I don't know. So he's definitely in the running with his fellow tribe mate there for it. But like, listen, I feel bad for
string
Brandon.
of unfortunate events, like to have them
Yeah.
all be back to back on like people can suck at things, but you kind of get hidden a bit, right? But he was at the forefront on each of the things that he was not good at and was just got so much focus and back to back to back to back. Like,
But can I just
such
add
a
to this?
string.
This is why people are getting frustrated and why people are saying, you know, they're getting frustrated at the wrong people. Like, for instance, saying, oh, why do we have to have like another Drew on the season? Which, when I think Drew's actually interesting. Like, if I had to choose out of all the nerdy archetypes that came onto this season, right? And all the super fans that came into the season, I would have only chosen Drew out of all of them. I think he's the only one that should have made it onto the show at this stage. And this is a legitimate pet peeve that I think a lot of people have, not just myself, is that we are putting too much of the Goon Squad onto Survivor in the US right now. If you compare it to Survivor Australian Survivor now is the Survivor that you watch if you want to see a serious Survivor game, like real good gameplay, cutthroatness, people that are playing the game that are like competitors. You don't get that on Survivor US right now because of casting. So the fact that Brandon made it onto the show, again, casting, similar to how like Hannah different reasons. She could have been a good player if she didn't have like the mental sort of weakness in regards to staying out there and pushing through, which they could have also tested through different ways. But for me, I think that the casting, this is why a lot of people are getting frustrated, because some of the people that are there, they're very likable, but do we need to see them on our screens? Do we need to see all of the Reddit fans playing Survivor, or all of the Twitter fans playing Survivor? No, we want to see I want to see competitors out there. I want to see some James Clements. I want to see a Colby Donaldson. I want to see an Aussie. Some of these archetypes that aren't necessarily like super duper fans, but they've got strong personalities and they're athletic and they bring other elements to the show. And that to me is where, like, I know we said we were going to focus on the ups, not the downs, but if I had to bring it down up, I think, Jake, that is where some of the weakness lies currently, with some formatting issues and not changing it up for me on Survivor at the moment. And I know a lot of people are like, Chris, how can you say that? Because we're super fans. We want to get on the show. I want the show to survive. I'm not just looking at us getting onto the show. I want the show to continue on.
I do get what you're saying. I will slightly push back and say
that's fine. Like, listen, I just want to say people do not have to agree with me, even in the live. They can tell me I'm full of it. Like, that's what we do here. We all have different opinions.
Yeah, I get like their whole philosophy with casting of like every single person has to be like a huge fan. I don't agree with that. I think that probably have them watch the show. Like, probably make sure that they've heard of the show. Like, don't be grabbing models off of Instagram. Like,
I agree with that.
Like we saw a lot in the 20s. We saw that a lot, and we got us some. I don't want to be mean, but like we got some duds. Let's be honest. We got some
One
duds.
World, Nicaragua.
Yes. But I do also slightly agree. But also, let's not act like Brandon was a good confessionalist. He was interesting. He was funny. That's really what casting is focused on. It's like, are you an interesting person? Can you tell a story? That's what they go for, from what I know. They're gonna try to balance the tribes. Lest us forget they cast Sandra and Sari. I mean, these people were not good at challenges. I mean, Brandon is really up there with some of the worst we've seen. But
Brandon's physical or lack of physical skill is somewhat dictated by his emotional anxiety stuff as well. Like, I don't think he could. I think he could physically climb a ladder better than I could physically climb a ladder. But when you're at the bottom of this thing that you've built up in your head and there's the ocean bashing against you and you know that it's pressure, and I don't know how much his anxiety played into the performance aspect as well. But I feel like someone said in the comments that you blame production. I know it's not the same thing. And Chris, you've hired people and interviewed people and gone through all that thing. I've done that a lot as well. And there are times where I sit and I'll discuss with other managers and stuff. I go, look, this guy's really green. He's a real maybe for me. He could have some potential here, but there's some real red flags there. Like, I have to imagine Brandon gave off a lot of maybe stuff to the
You've
casting.
got tens of thousands of people that are replying.
Yeah, there would have been so many red flags to go, look, he is funny and he's good on camera and his thing, but there's so many questions we have about whether he can actually stand up to this. The endurance side of it, the mental aspect. We know he couldn't even get on the plane originally, he said. So how much of that came out in the casting process where you would have enough data to go, there's potential here, but there's a lot of issues that we're seeing. I don't know like where that balance would have lay, but I feel like there had to be other picks that were in that maybe pile that didn't make it, that would have performed so much better. Like, I find it really weird that there's so many red flags that would have come up from Brandon and he still made that cut. Like, what did the other people show that was worse than Brandon? You know what I mean? Like, he's a good person. I don't hate him, but like, I feel like fell through the cracks?
I think he's a nice guy. And I just want to say I'm happy he got onto the show. Like, we're not hating on him for getting onto the show. And I'm not looking at Brandon alone. I'm looking at the makeup of the cast in its completion and what we're looking like. Do we need Brandon, Brando, Drew all on the same season? Out of the three of them, who are the strongest? Like, do we need that on the same season, right, Jake? That's kind of what I'm getting at.
No, and I get that, Ed. But I will say to Kahuna, I think you kind of answered your own question. Of you said that it's his anxiety that makes him physically bad.
Yeah.
So when they do the physicals, he's not under this immense pressure of like, if I don't win this, I'm going to be booted off my favorite show. He's just thinking like, oh, this is just a test, whatever. Because like I said, like you look at the guy, it's like he's not like so visibly like unfit. It just, I think, like you said, it's just his anxiety, and it's hard to put a definitive like, yeah, you're gonna crash and burn, bro. Like, and I know you say like, well, don't even take the risk. Well, okay, that's fair. Yeah. But again, I think that
it's a very inexperienced. We have to remember that this is even though the show is experienced, it's a very inexperienced casting team. They've only done 4-5 seasons, where the previous casting team did it a lot longer. So they're going to learn from this. They're going to get better.
I think they've hit some home runs with some of their picks. I mean, Marianne,
let's not get too far. Let's not get too far off track on that. But yes, there has been some great characters as well.
You're right. We're
really nitpicking. We're nitpicking on this right now.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up a couple of comments. Dolores is saying, did Kahuna just Neil Patrick Harris by saying Series of Unfortunate Events? I knew I liked him. I love Neil Patrick Harris and love Series of Unfortunate Events as well. Such a great show. I still try and convince people to watch that show that haven't seen it, and they still haven't watched it, and it annoys me that they haven't watched it. But great show. What else do we have here in some of the comments that we've missed in recent times? It's before we start wrapping up. Jay said, also good of Emily for giving Sabia his shot in the dark. It helped to ensure she stayed over Brandon. So that sort of happened here towards the end to solidify that vote. I thought that was really good. We had someone tell us about this. I think it was Omar last season when we had him on the podcast, told us that you could actually barter with your shot in the dark. That was a rule that they could have done as well, and we were shocked that no one has ever done that before that. But clearly she did it. Like, and it's going to be interesting, Jake, to see if she gets it back in the next episode.
I know. I was totally thinking of that interview we did with Omer when that happened, and also with Gabler, because I remember we followed up and was like, Omer told us this. Like, is this true? And he was like, yeah, that's what they told us. And so I was totally thinking that. And I was watching with my girlfriend and her family, and they were like, what? I didn't know you could give them to each other. And I was like, yeah, I knew that.
It's good. It's good to for once not be surprised that actually like some of the inner secrets. Andrea Lee says, I want to see Jared Fields and Nina Twine on Survivor. So obviously Nina Twine, the daughter of Sandra Diaz-Twine, and then Jared Fields, Cerie's son, who just played in Big Brother. My hopes would be less on Jared having a good game. It'd still be fun to see, but I think Nina
Jared
very
was
threatening.
Jared was cast. He was on the cast for
both of them.
For Dave vs. Goliath and Edge of Extinction, I think.
Well, all right. So I don't know about Edge of Extinction, but I do know that both Nina and Jared were the alternates for David vs. Goliath. They were the alternates to be on that season. Both.
No. Jared was not the alternate. He was on, and then he backed out at the last second. And Davey Rickenbacker was called at the last second. They said, "Dude, like you're in." And
he backed out. So how did he get onto another show after that?
In the system, CBS, they know him. Obviously Cerie's son.
His last name.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually could be wrong about like he backed out, or like I don't know if something happened with his personal life and he's just like, hey, I can't. But he was on, and Davey was his alternate, and they said, come out, man, you're on. Spot just opened up.
Yeah, Andrew Lee here says next episode promo. Jake, Caleb, and Drew, all of them potentially at different points in trouble. I can't remember the Caleb one so well. I felt like it was more. I felt like it was more. I guess Sabia. Sabia had a conversation with Emily, so that's going to be interesting because I feel like that's going to blow up in Sabia's face. I'm a little bit more worried for Sabia than Caleb because, like I said, I feel Emily is going to be very loyal now moving forward in the game to Caleb because he reached out to her with an olive branch. So I'm a little bit worried there.
She immediately turns on him the next episode.
Yeah, I just don't see it. Like, I know she's
Yeah.
cutthroat, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that was some of the ones I wanted to catch up on. But ultimately here, they have a choice between strength of the tribe or someone that could potentially be a bit of a risk. Before we check the results of the live and make sure everybody that's in the live that you vote on that, Kahuna, do you think that they made the right decision keeping Emily in the game over the likes of a Brandon? I've got a feeling you're going to say yes because you've been pretty hard on Brandon throughout this episode about his physical incapabilities of being able to perform in the game. What's your thoughts on this? And then Jake, you can go straight after.
I think it's much of a muchness either way because I don't see. Sabia asked Caleb, "Does Emily actually guarantee us a win at all? Like, does she improve our chances?" And he says she may not guarantee that we win, but Brandon guaranteed that we lose. Which I think, based on that logic, I think they made the right decision. But I don't think if you're making it for the purposes of we need to win a challenge, Emily's not the game changer. She's not putting them over the line, but she can definitely lessen the negative impacts that Brandon brings, I guess. So maybe it will help, but I do think they made the right decision. Brandon brings nothing but a chain around the neck that's just dragging them down. So hopefully they get better by addition by subtraction. By getting rid of someone that drags you down, maybe they can perform better to the point of not coming last rather than winning.
Jake, anything you wanted to add on that? I saw you nodding your head quite a bit there.
I mean, I just agree. Like, I mean, I had no vested interest because they're both on my team. So it was a lose-lose. I was losing somebody regardless of who was voted out. But I agree. If I, looking at it objectively, personally, I have a soft spot for Brandon. I don't know why. I just think he's really funny. First of all, I think he's very entertaining. But I mean, I can't deny, like, he had to go. It was the right decision, which is crazy because Emily came off so badly at first, and she's on her way up, and we'll see how far she goes up.
Let's see if she's got Cass or Spencer upside, like some people said here in the beginning. Maybe she's a bit of a mix of the both of them.
Real quick, I want to comment on somebody, I forget who, mentioned, like, are we going to have this, Spencer storyline again of, like, listen,
that's part of Survivor, though. That's part of
Survivor. I get not wanting that storyline again because I agree it was really annoying to have Spencer be like, I just had this epiphany. People have feelings, actually. And it was like, yeah, Spencer, like, yeah. And he would keep saying that, yet he would still not follow his own epiphany, and he would still treat people like chess pieces, and he came off as cold and annoying, and that's why he lost. But this felt genuine. This was like, Emily's breaking down crying, like, I need to make some changes, like, in my life, not just in this game, in my life. And it felt way more real. Like, I know that people get annoyed. People get annoyed at, like, these like sob stories.
Cochrane had the same thing. He had the same thing out there.
I more got annoyed at, like, the backstory of, like, showing their, like, their personal life, and, like,
which is gone.
It's gone. They don't do it. They don't do it anymore. But this was like this was saying, like, it wasn't saying, look at this really sad thing that happened to me in my personal life. This was saying, like, I have a really boring life, actually. I'm a freaking stock analyst. And that it made me realize people are not stocks. This is not my job. Also, Emily is realizing this on what day, like, 6. Spencer didn't realize it till day, like, 50 something, because he went the full season of Kage on apparently not realizing this. So I'll just say I think it's different, and but I do get not wanting that storyline, but I like it this time around.
Jay, so that story that Jeff telling about the water boy was a fun little story.
So
I think
crazy.
It was just it was.
I think
it was
it
crazy,
says a lot though about Jeff.
That
gives us an insight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that felt really like, whoa, wait, why are we learning about Jeff's personal life right now? That felt weird.
I think he
It
just
felt really
wanted.
weird.
I think he wanted Brandon to feel better in the moment. He knew Brandon was going home.
Yeah.
He was trying to like relate to him, and I thought it was endearing. And I feel like Jeff is just. This happens to a lot of people. My dad used to be like the hardest man I knew. We would never hug. We'd be like, "Hey, Dad," like shake hands. He's that, and now my dad, as he's getting older, he's like more huggy, becoming a little bit more emotional. So I feel like that happens to people when they get older, and that's now
Yeah.
happening to Jeff. He's just becoming softer with age.
It's just funny because like we used to
Yeah.
like Jeff was just like he was just Jeff. Like we knew nothing
Yeah.
about him. He was just this guy,
Yeah.
you know,
Man of
in
mystery.
Yes,
Can't do
but
left-handed
now it's
layup.
like, yeah. He
Yeah.
didn't have a left-handed layup. Come on, Jeff. You can't try it for the team and not have a left-handed layup.
He's like
Come
the
on.
Cavs after LeBron left, as Caleb
Yeah,
put.
100%.
Great
It was
reference.
Austin. I think it was Austin that said that, yeah. Or no,
Yeah.
Caleb said
No,
it. You're right.
Caleb
yeah.
said it.
Caleb did
Yeah.
say that. You're right.
Danica says, before we leave, and we're not leaving because I do need to do the points straight after this, and we're going to get into it real soon, says, I caught up on your live this morning for the Amazing Race AU Celebrity. I hope our time changed in November. We'll readjust the time so I can watch it at a time that participate. Yeah, that's fine. So that will be live. Watch it whenever you can and comment. Kahuna and then we'll read. We will respond to any comments that you leave in there as well. And also ask Kahuna, how do we watch Traders Canada? Are you and Mucky doing lives on that? Mucky and Hamish, who did Traders New Zealand, will be doing the Traders Canada podcasts moving forward. I will say with that, it's not going to be live. It's going to be pre-recorded. So you can't catch it live even if time zones worked out due to scheduling things with Hamish and Mucky and when it will work. So we will probably premiere it at a time that is suitable to Canada and the Eastern Standard Time zones over in the US. So you will still be able to jump into the premiere live, comment on it on there with other people watching it live at the same time, but that is going to be pre-recorded here on the channel. We do need to go into our point system here and have a look at how things are going with the draft. Sadly, at this point, Jake is down to 4 players very early on in the game. 2 yellow tribes back-to-back, Hannah and Brandon out back-to-back in the game. But let's have a look a little bit at points. Coming into this season, we had Kahuna, I think from about episode 3 or episode 4 last season, you've been leading the draft, and it's been a very, very good run for you. We'll see if that is going to continue here for us in this episode. But I can tell you, without dragging it out too long, that Jake is in 3rd place overall at 58.5 points overall. Top player is Emily. Emily's got 13 points for you. She's carrying the team right now, so you really need her to stay in the game. You need to become an Emily fan and get behind that redemption.
I honestly, listen, I'm actually an Emily fan.
So it's easy for you.
I'm with you, and I think it was Jay that said, you're coming around on her. I am as well.
Yeah.
The
definitely.
only bad thing about Emily's redemption is that she, at the same time, she's getting rid of one of our villains that we could have really had a bad villain for the season. So her redemption is actually killing off a villain, which sucks, but it's good for her.
Yeah. So we do have, like I said, you're on 58.5 points, Emily carrying your team, and I can confirm for the first time since episode 3-4 of last season, Kahuna is not in the lead. He's in 2nd place at 65 points, still very close between him and Jake at this stage. His top player currently in the team is Austin at 15 points overall. He's had 5 confessionals, 2 challenge wins outright for points, and that's put him on 15 points. And then starting to create a little bit of a gap between myself and the chasing pack at this stage. I'm on 90 points at this stage. So really blowing it out of the water. Top player in the team is my man, but still on 25 points. Drew has got 25 points.
He's got that advantage.
He's got the 2nd most confessionals for the season on 10, but he's got 2 challenge wins outright, plus he found the advantage, which gives him 25 points. And if I look at who's currently in the top 3 players, I've got 2 of the top 3 players. Drew on 25, Sabia on 20. She's had 15 confessionals. Even though she hasn't won a challenge yet, she has found an advantage, which has also helped her in the game at this stage because ultimately she does.
But she doesn't have the idol yet, though, right?
Oh, right, you're right. So I do lose points on that. Why did I put that as a? So she's
Oh,
actually. So I'm
dude.
5 points less. 85 on my score. So it's a little
But
bit closer to what I thought.
that shocked me when I saw that Sabia has the most confessionals this season.
Yeah, she's killing it on the confessional. So she's still outright, I guess, second with Austin
she's on
15
Lulu.
points.
Lulu people are getting all the confessionals at the moment, but
A lot of the
once that
content,
tribe
yeah.
is completely gone before merge.
But my lowest point player at this stage is Julie, who's sitting on 13 points, equal with Jake's best player on 13 points. So it's been a strong.
Come on.
It's been a strong start for my team. I'm just gonna put that out there. It's been a long time since I've been able to gloat about any of these draft results. So it's been a good 2 weeks, but I'm worried because heading into this next episode, we potentially have Sabia, who might be overplaying her hand, which could be why she's been getting a lot of content. We've got Jake from Jake's team, who potentially looks like he's in danger. I guess the next on made it look like he fell into the fire, which I think, similar to Jake, that's a red herring.
It.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. And then for do you have anybody in trouble, Kuna, in your tribe? You've got no one. I think you're pretty safe. I don't. Maybe Katura, but
yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, let me just say, oh my gosh, at this stage, things can change. I am so not confident in like anybody on my team. Like Brando is he's my horse right now in this race. Can you believe I'm saying that? It's Brando. He has my best chance because, like I said, Jake, I'm not high on his chances. Jay Maya is like just kind of invisible, All she really got this episode was that she thought that the flag thing was a code, yeah. And then Emily, she's on the incline right now, but we'll see how far that takes her. Whew.
It's going to be interesting. Well, we will be back next week to talk about all of the action. For everybody that has been here in the live, thank you so much, Jay. Palava Girl also dropped in right now saying, I hope Emily does progress. However, right after she broke down, realized people had feelings. She next threw another Emily tantrum when Brandon was chosen for the boat trip. So we'll see with orange face biting nails emoji.
Classic Emily tantrum.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I had a lot of fun talking to you about the action here for this week's episode. If you want more of us on the lives, we're going to be back. There's going to be more lives dropping this weekend. I will be back tomorrow with Kahuna. Same time, same place. I think it's an hour earlier than usual at 7 p.m. over there in the US on Eastern Standard Time. We will talk about the next episode of the challenge, which I have to go and watch still and make notes on that. Then straight after that, we will do Wheel of Time. Andre Lee will do the finale with Will as well. So both those lives coming tomorrow as well. For now, grab your torches, head back to camp, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.